For 9 years, Marshall Erickson and Lily Aldrin were the absolute gold standard of television romance. If you watched How I Met Your Mother, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They were the couple that never really broke up. They were the couple that made Ted Mosby's desperate romanticism look like an amateur sport. They were the ultimate couple goals for an entire generation of viewers. We loved them because they felt real. Their chemistry leaped off the screen. They had their iconic pet names, Lily Pad and Marshmallow, and they seemed incredibly obsessed with each other. They were the emotional anchor of the entire series. Whenever the rest of the gang was falling apart, Marshall and Lily were the safe harbor. But what you saw on television was an illusion. A very carefully crafted, highly directed illusion. Because behind the scenes, there was a massive problem. While the audience saw couple goals, the lead actress, Alyson Hannigan, was dealing with something that made filming genuinely unpleasant. In 2008, right at the absolute peak of the show's popularity, Alyson dropped a total bombshell in an interview that changed how thousands of fans look at their scenes together. She revealed a truth that nobody expected. Alyson Hannigan actually hated kissing Jason Segel. And the reason why is a wild story of backstage compromises, failed bets, and a very real physical disgust that forced the directors to completely rethink how the show was filmed. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how the most romantic couple on television was secretly staging a years-long kissing strike. Before we get into the bets and the behind-the-scenes workarounds, you need to understand exactly what was going on. In September 2008, How I Met Your Mother was heading into its 4th season. The show was a massive cultural hit. The actors were doing tons of press. And during an interview with Digital Spy, Alyson Hannigan just let the truth slip out. She did not hold back at all. Here is the exact quote from that interview. She said, "I cannot stand cigarette smoke. It's like kissing an ashtray and he's trying to be polite by having gum or mints, but it doesn't help." Think about that for a second. That is not a polite Hollywood answer. That is a brutally honest confession of pure physical disgust. Let's break down why this was such a nightmare. When you are an actor on a major network sitcom, a kissing scene is not just a quick peck. You are doing multiple takes. You are dealing with lighting changes, camera angles, and script adjustments. You might have to kiss your co-star 10 or 15 times in a single hour just to get the perfect shot. Now imagine doing that with a heavy chain smoker. Alyson specifically mentions the gum and mints detail, and if you have ever been around a heavy smoker, you know exactly what she means. When a heavy smoker tries to cover up the smell of tobacco with cheap mints, it does not erase the smell. It just creates a completely new and equally terrible scent. It becomes a minty, stale ashtray. For a strict non-smoker like Alyson Hannigan, being forced to press her face against that multiple times a day was a genuine sensory nightmare. But here is where it gets really interesting. This was not a feud. They did not hate each other. In fact, it was the exact opposite. They were incredibly close friends. This was a tough negotiation between two best friends, one of whom just happened to smell like a dive bar at 3 in the morning. To truly understand how deep this issue went, we have to go all the way back to the very first day of the show. Back to the filming of the pilot episode in 2005. When Alyson Hannigan and Jason Segel were cast as TV's most perfect couple, they realized very quickly that they had a major physical incompatibility. Alyson could not stand the smell, and Jason could not stop smoking. So they did what any good friends would do. They made a wager. Alyson told the story of how they tried to fix this problem on day 1. She said, "When we started the pilot, he was like, 'Get me to stop smoking. I'll be your best friend.' So we did this bet where he would owe me $10 every time he had a cigarette. $10 a cigarette. It seems like a harmless, funny game between co-workers. A little motivation to kick a bad habit. But Jason Segel was not just a giant in physical stature. Apparently, he was also a giant capacity smoker. He was not having a casual cigarette with his morning coffee. He was a human chimney. Here is exactly how badly this bet backfired. After just one single day of shooting the pilot episode, Alyson checked the tally. She later revealed, after the first day, he owed me $200. Let's do the math on that. At $10 a cigarette, a $200 debt means Jason Segel smoked 20 cigarettes in a single day of filming. That is an entire pack. He smoked a full pack of cigarettes while simultaneously trying to launch a major television show and play a sweet, romantic, fresh-faced law student. This shows just how intense the pressure of a Hollywood set really is. But it also shows how utterly impossible it was for Alyson to escape the smell. Jason was constantly stepping outside for a smoke break, and then walking straight back in to film a romantic scene with his TV wife. The $10 bet was supposed to be a solution, but it just exposed how enormous the problem actually was. Now, to his credit, Jason Segel genuinely tried to fix it. He knew it was bothering his co-star, and he wanted to be a good scene partner. After the failure of the $10 bet, Jason finally pushed through and managed to quit cold turkey. Alyson was thrilled. She described this brief period as absolutely fantastic. For one glorious year, the problem was gone. Marshall and Lily could film their scenes like a completely normal television couple. But in Hollywood, peace never lasts long. The timeline here is important. Around Season 2 and Season 3, Jason Segel's career was exploding beyond the show. He was not just playing Marshall Erikson anymore. He was writing and starring in the massive hit film Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Think about the sheer pressure on his shoulders during this period. He was working long hours on a hit TV show during the day and pouring himself into writing a deeply personal feature film at night. The stress was relentless. And what tends to happen to a heavy smoker when stress reaches a breaking point? They relapse. Alyson explained exactly how the glorious year of clean air came to an end. She said, he quit cold turkey for about a year. It was fantastic, but then he got stressed out and he started smoking again. The relapse stuck. The stress of being a Hollywood leading man proved too much, and the cigarettes came back in full force. The problem returned to the set of How I Met Your Mother, and it was not going away. When Jason relapsed, Alyson Hannigan made a firm professional decision. She was done with the bets. She was done trying to fix the habit through games and wagers. She simply put her foot down. From that point on, Alyson essentially went on a kissing strike whenever it was humanly possible. She refused to do the standard heavy makeout scenes unless they were absolutely essential to the plot. But here is where the story gets genuinely fascinating from a production standpoint. How do you film a show about the most devoted, romantic, obsessed couple in the world if the two lead actors are avoiding kissing each other? This became a real problem for the directors. They had to find creative ways to show physical intimacy between Marshall and Lily without relying on standard lip contact. They had to build a completely new physical language for the couple. And once you know this secret, you genuinely cannot unsee it. Go back and watch the middle seasons of the show. Pay close attention to how Marshall and Lily interact when they are happy or feeling romantic. Notice how often they high-five instead of kissing. Whenever Marshall does something sweet, or whenever they both agree on something exciting, they do not lean in for a kiss like a typical couple would. They enthusiastically high-five each other. For years, fans assumed this was just a quirky and endearing character trait. People thought it showed how fun and playful their relationship was, but there is a strong argument that this was not purely a character choice. It was at least partially a practical workaround, a way to keep Jason Segel's mouth as far away from Alyson Hannigan's face as possible, while still showing warmth and connection between the characters. The directors leaned heavily into other alternatives as well. The iconic Eskimo kisses, where Marshall and Lily rubbed their noses together, became a signature move. The forehead rest, where they press their heads together and close their eyes, showed up constantly. They would pull into a tight hug, heads together, and let the camera sit on that image rather than cutting to a kiss. If you go back and watch popular episodes from the middle seasons, the absence of actual kissing between the two of them becomes almost noticeable once you are looking for it. They are constantly touching, hugging, and high-fiving, but the lips rarely meet. The directors used physical blocking and body language to quietly work around what was happening behind the scenes. You might think that one lead actress refusing to kiss another lead actor would create a tense and uncomfortable working environment. You might expect HR meetings and awkward silences on set, but that is not what happened at all, because the cast of How I Met Your Mother genuinely loved each other in a way that is actually quite rare in television. Neil Patrick Harris, who played Barney Stinson, frequently described the cast as a functional family. And within that family, Jason Segel occupied the role of the lovable, slightly chaotic older brother. Kobe Smulders, who played Robin, was very close with Alyson, and the behind-the-scenes atmosphere seems to have been one where complaints about Jason smoking became a shared joke, rather than a source of real tension. The set had a specific warmth to it. Nobody treated Jason like a problem. Nobody made him feel like an outcast for a habit he was genuinely struggling to break. Instead, the whole situation became part of the running fabric of their dynamic. Everyone knew. Jason knew everyone knew, and they all found a way to laugh about it and keep making the show. Now here is what makes all of this even more remarkable. Fast forward to 2014. How I Met Your Mother is finally ending after 9 seasons. The cast is doing their last round of press, and the emotions are raw. Alyson Hannigan is sitting on the panel of the daytime show The Talk. The hosts ask her a simple question. What is she going to miss most about working with Jason Segel? She does not joke about the cigarettes. She does not mention the kissing strike or the $10 bet or the stale ashtray smell. Instead, Alyson Hannigan starts crying on live television. She cries so hard she can barely speak. The simple thought of not going to work every day with this person is breaking her heart in real time. Jason Segel is sitting right next to her. He sees her fall apart, leans over immediately, wraps his arm around her shoulder, pulls her close, and softly says, "Aw, babe." Through her tears, trying to laugh at herself, Alyson looks up and says, "I'm on a daytime talk show crying. This isn't how it was supposed to go." That single moment tells you everything. It is the ultimate contradiction. She spent years avoiding kissing this man because of a terrible habit. She complained about it openly in interviews. She basically rewrote how their scenes were filmed because of it. And yet the idea of not seeing him every day completely destroyed her on national television. It proves that the discomfort was purely physical. She hated the habit, but she deeply and genuinely loved the person. When people look back at How I Met Your Mother, they tend to focus on the controversial ending or Barney's catchphrases or the mystery of the mother. But the true emotional core of the show was always Marshall and Lily. And learning the truth about the kissing strike does not ruin their legacy. It actually deepens it. Because what Alyson revealed in that 2008 interview was not just a funny backstage story. It revealed exactly why their chemistry worked so well for 9 years. These were not two people faking warmth for a paycheck. They were two people honest enough and very close to invent a whole language of high fives and forehead kisses and to cry on national television when it was finally over. The beautiful on-screen romance of lily pad and marshmallow was partly a creative solution built around the smell of stale cigarettes. But the friendship underneath it was completely real. And that is exactly why, even without the kissing, they remain the gold standard of television romance.